Alright, what is up YouTube? I am so sorry I haven't been uploading any videos or making any content for you guys as of late. I've actually been out of town and yeah, I went to an anime convention. It was pretty cool. I got some really dope artwork. But anyways, we are back with yet again another anime live action news update video for you guys, talking about the Saint Seiya live action as promised. I told y'all I would give y'all the latest and the greatest with this movie. But yeah, we did get some news at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm actually going to be talking about that today in this video. So apparently we got some pretty juicy interviews about the upcoming film at the Comic-Con panel from not only the writers as well as the stunt choreographer, but even one of the actors that was at the panel. So I'm going to be covering all three of those interviews in three different videos. So for this video, we're going to be talking about the interview questions that were for the writers, Josh Campbell and Matt Stucken. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Screenwriters Josh Campbell and Matt Stucken, best known for their work on 10 Cloverfield Lane, are the minds behind the movie's script. Having worked on multiple projects in the past, the duo came together to bring Seiya's character journey on screen in this brand new story. Both Campbell and Stucken extensively researched the Saint Seiya material and brought forth their vision of Seiya and transformed his tale into a universal experience. So one of the questions was, how long ago did you start working on Knights of the Zodiac? And then Josh Campbell answered, about 2 years ago. Yoshi, the main producer, was on the project for 10 years and they were doing the animated series simultaneously. There was a lot of different stuff going on when we came on. It was our job to figure out what the movie was supposed to be in terms of all these other things that were going on simultaneously. And then another question was, what's your process for doing this script? And then Matt Stucken answered, the best ones are ones where we start with the character. We identify the character and then we start asking, what's the core of his emotional journey or her emotional journey? Before you even talk about the plot and all the action, it's trying to find an emotion through the line that's going to carry us all the way through the story. With all the manga and the anime, we know we have the action covered. We know we're going to have world building and fight choreography. It's just who's our main character and why do we care? That is the backbone of everything. Another question was, is this movie its own story? Matt Stucken answered, it's an original movie, but it is very much inspired by the manga and the original anime. As much as we would have loved to put every knight in it and every story, you just can't. There's just too much. We want this to be accessible to folks who don't know the underlying property, and if you were to throw everything in there, you don't have enough real estate to give everyone the proper introduction. Thankfully, our collaborators were on the same page with us and focusing on one key character. You can't make the Avengers before you make Iron Man. Our hope is that this is the first one and we get to dip our toes into all those great characters. Another question asked, what was the biggest struggle of adapting an anime into one feature-length film? Josh Campbell answered, I think anime specifically have great raw emotions and dynamic kinetic energy and storytelling. You got to make sure you're getting those two things. That's more about the heart of the story than the visuals. I'll leave the visuals up to Tomek, who did an incredible job. When you're watching it, it feels like watching an anime. Emotionally, you got to be able to hit those critical pressure points in people's hearts accurately, because that's what anime and manga does. It just goes right to the heart of the matter, and then it's got to feel like it's moving. We had both of those things in mind the whole time we were writing. We didn't write it just to be flash and action, but we knew it had to keep moving while trying to get those touch points. And then another question was, what was it about Tomek's style that made him the right director for this project? Matt Stucken answered, when we had our first conversation with him, we were getting involved in the project. He told us how he would translate that anime style into live action. It was so clear that he had a vision for it, that he knew exactly what it wanted to be. When we started seeing clips and sequences cut together, he had the clear vision and he delivered. Josh Campbell also answered, I think that's because he's a true, genuine fan of the genre. He didn't come into it as a guy who just wanted to direct a movie. He came into it as a guy who specifically wanted to direct an anime movie live action style. Sounds kind of like a certain someone I know. Could it be moi? But anyways, Matt Stucken also answers, it's technique and heart. You can feel it both in the sequences. Another question was, how did you guys work with Toei and Yoshi in terms of crafting the story? Were there any earlier drafts or a couple of ideas that became the story we're going to see? Josh Campbell answered, it was collaborative and there were a lot of people involved. This franchise has such a long history. Toei, Mr. Kurumada, Sony, and Tomek had a lot of thoughts. It was a very collaborative process, and there was a series of scripts to get to where we were. Some movies want to be carved out of stone all at once, and they are what they are. Other movies are iterative, and we've done it both ways. It can work both ways as long as you have collaborators working in good faith, and we did. They were really good partners. Okay, another question here says, we talked about the importance of that emotional core that's going to bring the audience in from beginning to end. Why do we care about this property and Seiya's journey? So Matt Stucken answered, because he's such a great character from the get-go. You have this orphan and the only one person he's ever loved in his life is his sister. Then she gets taken away from him when he's just a kid. He grows up feeling so lonely, and in that loneliness, he builds walls around himself because he's afraid of letting someone else in for fear of getting hurt again. Then someone comes to him and tells him he's special and he has this extraordinary gift. I need you to help save the world. And he's like, save the world? The world's done nothing but turn its back on me. I think you can latch on to that journey, be in his shoes, and feel that. I think we've all had those moments where we feel alone and we don't have any allies. No one's in our corner, but turning your back is not going to solve problems. You have to step up and perform. I think it's a universal story and one of the things that makes Knights of the Zodiac timeless. And then last question, who were you aiming for the story you created? Josh Campbell answered, it's a great question, but it's kind of a producer question. I'm happy to answer it from our point of view. I think what Matt just said, which is find the universal story in through line and make sure it's accessible. You can tell a story for hardcore fans that's also accessible to a general audience, but you have to go into it knowing that's what you want to do. In a way, we might have been the right writers for this, because if we're hardcore Knights of the Zodiac fans coming in, we might not have had the perspective to understand how to tell the story that would open itself up to everyone. And then Matt Stucken also answered, I think if you know something and love it so much, you just assume certain things about it that have already tapped into. Coming into it without being totally immersed inside of it allowed us to help the producers and the director to focus into what makes it universal. And yeah, that is all for the writers panel. All the questions that were transcribed into this article that I could find. Yeah, we got some pretty interesting stuff actually from the writers. Seems like they've done their research. You know, it's funny because Saint Seiya has a lot of stories in it, and I'm not exactly sure if the story that they want to tell or that they found is like the right one or the best one, but I mean, you know, because like if you look at Saint Seiya the Lost Canvas, like that anime, that's like a different story from the original Saint Seiya, like, or it's kind of, I guess, in a different, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different Saint Seiya stories out there. Like, they're all pretty good, which is great for Saint Seiya fans. But I guess for the one that they're going to tell, I'm not 100% sure if that's like the one. Because it's been a while since I've actually seen Saint Seiya, but yeah. It says that they did their research, so I'm gonna trust that, you know, when he was talking about like the story Saint Seiya with like him and his sister and everything, that's like the true and accurate story. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, again, I haven't seen it in such a long time, but yeah, I do remember like the Lost Canvas was kind of different and like, you know, other things. So yeah, but I'll probably make a different video talking about like the different stories of Saint Seiya and if this is the right one that they're adapting and yada yada yada. But anyways, what did you guys think about the writers and what they had to say about the upcoming Knights of the Zodiac film? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, that helps me out a ton. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see y'all in the next video.